Welcome to our City Council meeting, February 3rd, 2021. I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask that our clerk please read the roll.
Vice Mayor Haddishelt.
Here.
Councilmember Alvord.
Here.
Councilmember Rakucci.
Here.
Councilmember Mendoza.
Here.
And Mayor Bernasconi.
Here. Thank you. I'd like to ask our fire chief, Rick Barty, if he would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
So I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Chief. I'd like to ask our clerk to please read the procedures for addressing the council.
Thank you. Good evening. Pursuant to the executive order issued by the governor on March 17th, and as a response to mitigating the spread of COVID-19, the meeting of the City Council will allow members of the public to participate and address the City Council during the meeting. Public comment may be submitted by telephone during the meeting and prior to the close of public comment on an agenda item by calling 916-774-5353. If you call, you may be placed on hold until the attendant can answer. The broadcast is delayed up to 30 seconds. So when your call is transferred to the City Council, you'll again have 5 minutes in which to speak to a regular agenda item and 3 minutes for public comment on items not on the agenda. I will monitor your time and I'll remind you when your time has expired. When calling, please do not use the speakerphone option as it may create difficulty for the City Council to hear you, and make sure that your television is turned down in order to avoid an echo. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now hear from our city manager, who will give us an update in response to COVID-19.
I thought we had a, excuse me, I thought we had a presentation.
That's before public comment.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Dominic Casey, your city manager, pleased to be here this evening to provide a COVID-19 update. Tonight's update is a little briefer and a little more surgical, really focusing more on some of the rate changes, also looking at tier status, and then lastly closing down with some information on the vaccine and the vaccine rollout. Been a lot of questions around the vaccine and with the changes in the tiers, and so I thought I'd take an opportunity to share a little information about that. So starting first with our case rate, as you've seen, there's significant change since the last time we reported. Our 7-day test positivity rate is half of what it was prior at 6.6. And if you remember, and I will share on the next slide when we talk about that, is that actually places us in the red tier at 6.6. And then our 7-day average daily case rate is 18.9%, which is still in the purple, the widespread category. But significantly lower than it was prior in the last report. And as you can see also by the chart graph, you can see a significant decline, which is all great news, something that we've certainly been looking for. While it's unfortunate, we're still at a little higher case rate than obviously we'd like to be. Numbers are certainly trending in a good direction. Our ICU capacity is at 12, and again, as always, that fluctuates. Just got off the phone earlier today with the Health and Human Services, who felt the ICU capacity was doing very well. And so I just wanted to share that. Here on the next slide, going back, if you remember before the stay-at-home order, we were under the tier system, which purple is the widespread, substantial's red, moderate's orange, and then the minimal is yellow. Currently, based off our case rates, we are still in the widespread purple, but we are moving towards tier 2, which is red. Once we meet the red criteria, we have to stay there for 2 solid weeks before we can move to the red tier, to the orange tier. You can only move 1 tier at a time. So even if our case rate were to be lower, we'd have to hold that for 2 more weeks to be moved down to the lower tier. And so I did, just for reference, I did put some information on there because there's a lot of questions around this. And so right now, and certainly I'm not predicting that we'll be in red as early as February 23rd. If I'm candid, I've heard dates closer to March. But if the numbers are there next Tuesday at the earliest, we could reach red is February 23rd, and then orange, if the numbers stay well and stay low for those areas and continue to decline, we could be there early as March 16th. And here, so on the next slide, you see really just a recap on some of that is with all the tiers, as you move through them, you're allowed greater capacity, larger, more businesses are allowed to be open, and you have larger spaces that are allowed within there. And so if you were at 25% capacity at the tier before, you go to 50% to 75% and so on. Pretty much all the businesses will operate that way. And there is a great list on not only the city website on our COVID page, but on the county's COVID page, and then also the COVID-19 state page. All have links to the different businesses and industries, and then the associated guidelines that go with them. And lastly, on the vaccinations, I think this is one of the most important items this evening for the update. And so as you can see, we're still, as a county, working through phase one, the priority groups, tier 1 through 3. Some additions that just did happen recently is Placer County residents are, now this is a little different, right, because it's at the grounds are allowed 65 plus, but Kaiser and Sutter are still 75 with appointment only. So I think those are important distinctions if you're looking to get a vaccination and you're in phase 1, tier 1 through 3. And if you don't meet the criteria, you shouldn't try to make appointments. It really ties up the line and makes it a challenge for those who are eligible to get those needed vaccination appointments. And you also have proof of Placer County residency and age of required for those age-based groups. Been a lot of questions around if you live in Placer County but work in another county, are you eligible? Yes, residency makes you eligible. There's even discussion now about even if you work in Placer County but live in another county, trying to move you into the eligibility list. So those in our community, if they want to be vaccinated, they can be. I think one of the challenges that I'd like to share that's not on the slide is just from the capacity issue. Right now, as a county, we're receiving about 5,000 doses a week. We have the capacity to administer close to 20,000 a week, and we really have the demand as a county for that need. We're hopeful, and I know the County Health and Human Services is working hard to advocate with the state to get additional doses into the county. As told as early as next week, the county may see a third of those dose increases coming to the county, which would be great, but certainly can take more. We have much capacity to deliver more. And so I can assure you that the county officials, Health and Human Services Officer and his team are doing all they can do to get more doses into the county and certainly increase our capacity and able to get vaccinations to those who would like it. So with that, I'm happy to stand for any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Does the council have any questions of Dom?
No, thank you. Thank you for the report.
Okay. I will open this up to public comment. The call-in number is 916-774-5353, and we have our email up too. Is that right? No email, only phone calls. Okay, we have one phone call. Thank you.
Good evening. If you state your name, you may make your comments now.
Thank you. My name is Natalie Grand, and I was calling because, as you are aware, Placer County has contracted with nonprofits, the Gathering Inn, and Advocates for Mentally Ill Housing for the purpose of providing permanent supportive housing, which is housing for homeless individuals. And you are also aware that homes in Roseville, single-family neighborhoods, have been purchased by the nonprofits and are being used for this purpose. We just had one purchased in the Pittman area by the Gathering Inn, and then there's one in East Roseville that was purchased for $700,000 with an in-ground pool for the Advocates for Mentally Ill Housing to only house 5 or 6 individuals. And that program is subject to housing first principles meaning tenants cannot be required to be sober, work, or subject to other requirements typically associated with outcome-based programs. It was acknowledged during the November 10th, 2020 Rockland City Council meeting that the county did not disclose to Rockland City officials its intention to convert single-family zoning homes in the cities to permanent supportive housing. It was also acknowledged that better communication was needed. What I'm wanting to know, and many of the residents, is did anyone on the Placer County Board of Supervisors or anyone from the Placer County Health and Human Service Department disclose its intention to Roseville officials prior to the 2020 home purchases recently made by the Gathering Inn and the Advocates for Mentally Ill Housing? Because I do want to point out that the Gathering Inn has had relations with Roseville City, and you guys do give them money, so it would seem logical that maybe there would be kind of a heads up from the Gathering Inn that this was going into the Fitiment Ranch area. So whether yes or no, I would like to know, how has the county reached out to the Roseville leadership since November 2020 to discuss permanent supportive housing in single-family areas? And we would like to know what the future plans are for Roseville. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is that the last of the comments? Okay, no more comments. Okay, I will close public comment, and this is for information only. So now is the time where we'll move into public comment, which is, I believe, what that last caller believed we were doing. But this is, I'll open it up to public comment, and this is where you have a presentation?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Member Erskine. That's where I had to mix up a little bit earlier. I apologize for that. I would like to invite Fire Chief Rick Bartee to the podium. I had the honor and the privilege to be on Chief Bartee's selection committee back in 2015 when he was selected to be our fire chief. And I still remember now, almost 6 years later, the depth of knowledge that Chief Bartee brought, not only from an emergency management standpoint on a municipal level, but the state and federal level that he works on, being regularly called to lead teams of over 1,000 individuals to respond to hurricanes, floods, fires, and being just struck by that amount of experience and background and education that he brought forward. And I say that because last summer, Chief shared a story with his firefighters, men and women in the fire department, and that story was very, very impactful and compelling. And we shared it at that time a little broader with the rest of the city, and I received dozens of comments back about that impact. And just it really created a lot of good and healthy discussion. And as we sat here today, getting ready to celebrate and recognize Black History Month, I wanted to take an opportunity to share this message and story a little broader, that it may have the same impact on our community and our council as it did on all of us as we heard that story. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to you, Rick. Thank you.
Thank you, Dom. Good evening, Mayor Berlusconi and Council. I shared the version of this message with the members of the Roseville Fire Department last summer, following the George Floyd's death. Now, to begin Black History Month, our city staff asked me to share this message with the community. After some consideration, I agreed, and as the city's first Black fire chief and Black firefighter, I feel a responsibility to do so. Here's the message. After witnessing the violence and struggle that has occurred over the centuries for so many groups, it is staggering to try and understand why something that causes so much pain, hate, and anger continues to exist. Hate, racism, bigotry are systemic issues across the globe. Our history in the United States regarding discrimination is unacceptable, and it must change. In my close to 40 years of being in the fire service, I, for one, can attest to the struggles of many of these people through my personal firsthand experiences of racism, discrimination, and bigotry while on duty from inside and outside at a much larger organization than I am at today. Speaking of them still stirs great emotions. I cannot change the past, however, I will continue to shape the future. In so many ways, as firefighters, we are fortunate to play the role we do right now in society. We are helpers, we are protectors, we are professional problem solvers. As firefighters, we are on the front lines during the most critical emergencies in communities. When we put on a fire department uniform and come to work, we support each other and all of our community. We demonstrate unyielding professionalism, personal accountability for everyone in every aspect of our performance. We treat each other and the public with dignity and respect. It is our diversity of strength that makes us so successful in serving the public. As written on the side of all Roseville fire apparatus, our family protecting yours, that is our mission. Kindness, patience, compassion, and consideration go a long way in strengthening our ties to the community and to each other. People have long memories, and we want to make those recollections positive. Firefighting is an inherently dangerous job. Our role in society is to help, not harm. As firefighters, we must support one another and a community that is hurting. We can only accomplish this through acceptance and understanding. Our city's future is unfolding right in front of our eyes. Let us do what we pledged when we put on the blue shirt and make things better. Let us do it for every individual in history who suffered from terrible actions or words brought on by those who hate. We will continue to stand together for each other and for the community we serve, demonstrate our organizational philosophy in every interaction, and take care of each other. My most profound hope is that real dialogue will result in true change. That change will not happen overnight, and in the meantime, we have a job to do. We will do it best if we remain united. Thank you for this opportunity to share the message.
Thank you very much, Chief.
Thank you.
Okay, we will continue on with public comment. If there is anyone tonight that would like to make a comment on any item that is not on the agenda, you may call 916-774-5353. Clerk, would you like to read have we already read our procedures for the consent
No,
calendar?
it's public comment period right now. Amy, do we have calls? No. Okay. So no public comment.
Okay, I will close public comment. And
Now
then,
I'll read the procedures.
thank you.
The consent calendar contains issues or matters which are considered to be routine in nature and will be passed by one motion. There will be no discussion of consent calendar items unless a member of the City Council, staff, or the public requested a specific item be removed. Mayor Berlusconi, if you would give a time period for residents to call in to see if they'd like an item removed from the consent calendar. I do have to announce that we are removing an item from the consent calendar. It's item 7.2, card key access and security control systems. It's being dropped and will be relisted at a future meeting.
Thank you. Has anyone called in to remove an item?
Any callers, Amy, on the consent calendar?
Okay, no callers. Do we have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I'll move to approve the consent calendar minus item 7.2, card key access, which will be heard at a future council meeting.
Second.
Vice Mayor Haddishelt.
Yes.
Councilmember Alvord.
Yes.
Councilmember Rakucci. Yes. Councilmember Mendoza.
Yes.
And Mayor Berlusconi.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move into item 8.1, the fiscal year 2021-22 budget schedule.
Good evening, Mayor Berlusconi and council members. Dennis Kaufman, your Assistant City Manager and Chief Financial Officer. The purpose of this presentation is to kick off the public process for budget development for the fiscal year that's going to start July 1st, 2021, and to encourage public participation in the process. I want to take a minute to recognize the city's budget team for earning the Operating Budget Excellence Award for the city's current year budget document from the California Society of Municipal Finance Officers. The award program encourages local governments to prepare budget documents of the very highest quality that reflect best practices in budgeting. This current year budget was developed during the COVID-19 pandemic and a period of great economic uncertainty, as you know. Although the overall economy has performed somewhat better than was feared earlier on in the pandemic, there remains significant uncertainty about when the pandemic will end and the timeline for that economic recovery. As a result of the continued uncertainty that we face, the staff is developing a largely status quo general fund budget for this next fiscal year that will include unavoidable cost increases to maintain existing city service levels and only critical augmentations. This budget schedule provides dates for presentations to the City Council, as well as key budget milestones. On March 17th, the Local Sales Tax Oversight Committee will present their annual report to the Council on their review of the Measure B sales tax activity for last fiscal year that ended on June 30th of 2020. Later in March, the city manager and staff will conduct internal budget review meetings with each city department to review their budget and identify and prioritize any critical augmentation requests. On April 7th, staff will provide an update to the City Council on the city's long-term liabilities for pension and retiree health, otherwise known as other post-employment benefits, or OPEB, because of their significance to the city budget. Then on April 21st, staff will make presentations on the proposed capital improvement program budget, as well as the Roseville Electric and the environmental utilities proposed budgets. On May 5th, staff will present and recommend updates to the council-adopted financial policies. On May 19th, the city's proposed budget will be delivered to the City Council and made available to the public. On June 1st, the city will hold its annual budget hearings with presentations by city departments about their budgets. And on June 16th, staff will recommend that council adopt the budget for the fiscal year that will start on July 1st. Thank you. This concludes my presentation, and I'm available to answer any questions.
Thank you. Does the council have any questions of Dennis?
No,
Okay.
thank you.
If not,
Yeah.
we'll,
So last night, the Local Sales Oversight Committee met. Are there vacancies on there or
Not currently.
not? Oh, not currently.
We have two that expired June of 2021.
So, okay.
So we'll be,
Okay, good. Anything that came out of the meeting last night that's,
they are going to be preparing their report over the next few weeks and meeting again at the end of February, and then they'll be returning to council in March.
any other questions? If not, we'll open it up to public comment. And the number to call in is 916-774-5353. And I'll give it a minute to see if we have anyone call in due to the delay. Doesn't look like we have anybody calling in. Does the council have any additional questions or comments?
I just have a comment. I would just like to encourage the community to get involved in the budget process. I think it's actually kind of interesting, and a lot of times I've heard comments after the fact of things where I kind of wish they had gotten involved in the process. It's something I hope the public that has an interest in the budget and where we're focused on comes and listens to the meetings, asks questions. It's open to the public, well, at least via phone at the moment, but I think it'd be great if we had more public actually involved in the process so we as your representatives can hear more input on it. That's it.
That's a good point. Okay, so unless there's any other questions, this is information item only, so
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, and we've got a public hearing this evening. Item 9.1, Community Development Block Grant Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act funding. Hi.
Good evening, Mayor Bernasconi and members of the City Council. I'm Tricia Isom, Housing Manager in the Economic Development Department. This evening, I'll be presenting an amendment to the Community Development Block Grant 2019 Annual Action Plan in order to utilize the third tranche of CARES Act funding. The Community Development Block Grant Program is a federal program of objectives of benefiting low-income neighborhoods and individuals, alleviating blight in communities, and addressing urgent community development needs. The CDBG CARES Act funds have the same regulations but are also restricted to address COVID-19. On March 27, 2020, Congress enacted the CARES Act to provide emergency rental assistance for those affected by COVID. On April 2, 2020, HUD announced that the City of Roseville would receive Round 1 CARES Act funding of $417,412. In order to deploy the funding into the community as soon as possible, City Council approved an amendment to the CDBG 2019 Annual Action Plan. On September 11th of 2020, HUD announced that the City of Roseville would receive $795,721 from Round 3 CARES Act funding. This requires the second amendment to the 2019 Annual Action Plan. The Housing Division reached out to local nonprofits serving low-income households, the Roseville City School District, as well as Placer County Health and Human Services regarding community needs due to COVID. The list of programs you see on this slide were recorded as the highest priorities. At this time, we request to amend the 2019 Annual Action Plan in the amount of $437,610. The remaining balance of the award will be programmed and expended at a later date. This will allow us to determine if current programs are sufficient or if new programs will be necessary to address community need that may be revealed in the coming year. Proposed programs include $250,000 to pay current and back rent in order to help stave off future evictions and provide families with some stability. If transportation to jobs is interrupted, it could increase the need for rental assistance, so $50,000 is reserved for residents who have lost wages due to COVID and require help making car and insurance payments. Project Room Key houses approximately 80 previously homeless residents at the Hampton Inn, providing an isolated environment. The Housing Division and the county are working together to permanently house each resident. $24,000 is proposed to assist Project Room Key for a total of 3 months of funding. Students who are homeless require extra services due to COVID. $50,000 is recommended to help fund hotspots or Chromebooks for online learning, virtual tutoring, or subsidized after-school care. Finally, the city is in the process of contracting with a new legal services provider to assist Roseville residents with comprehensive fair housing services. $40,000 is recommended to be added to the $10,000 contract to assist with additional needs for fair housing counseling and investigation services for victims of housing discrimination. Tonight, staff recommends that City Council receive public comment on the proposed amendment to the 2019 Annual Action Plan, adopt a resolution to amend the plan and authorize the city manager to execute necessary documents, and approve the budget adjustment allocating the additional CARES Act funds. This concludes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you very much. Does the council have any questions of Tricia?
I have one. Mayor, Tricia, it's with this block grant, we have a little bit more time, like a few years, so that if we see something else coming up, that we may have a need that we didn't know about, we could use that money for?
Yes, we actually get 3 years from the date of the funding award to spend all the money. So we didn't want to put it all out into the community right now.
Yeah, because we don't know what might be out there. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? Scott?
How long do you expect the $437,000 to last at this point? What's our budgeted expectation?
That's a great question. There's a huge need out there for all of it. I could see it all being spent within a year, 12 months.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. Thank you very much. Well, I'll open it up now to public comment. If anyone would like to make a comment on this item, the call-in number is 916-774-5353. And we'll give it a minute to see if we have any callers. And so far we have one. We'll take the first one.
Good Good evening. If you state your name, you may make your comments now.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Kathleen Crawford, and I am a resident of Sun City, Roseville. I'm very pleased with most of what I have read about this CDBG grant, and I believe it is targeted in many of the best ways. I have one question about the $50,000 grant to the City of Roseville School District, and that is not that I don't think they deserve it or have needy children who need it, but it only serves children up to the ages of 12 or 13. None of the high schools are included in that district, and I'm sure that there are homeless and foster youth in the high schools as well. I don't know how you would go about restricting the grant to high schools here in Roseville, but I would think that that is a youth group that could certainly benefit from some additional grant funding. Also, my question is, who are you actually granting the money to? Is it going directly to the school district, or is it going through another nonprofit as an administrator of the funding? So I wasn't very clear when I read the description in the cover sheet whether or not it was something that the city staff would be working through the school district on, or if it was a direct grant to the school district to use in whatever fashion they needed it. So those are my questions and my considerations. Thank you again. I think it is well targeted, and I'm sure that there's a need in our community to use that money, and I agree with the staff estimate. It would probably take a year or less to use it, especially when you're talking about back rent and other kinds of things that are helping to keep people employed. So thanks again.
Thank you.
Okay. That's the only call that we have this evening. So I will close public comment. Ask council any other deliberations, comments, questions before we have a motion.
We're going to close the public hearing first.
Thank you. And I'll close the public hearing. Thank you, Sonia.
You're welcome. And the motion is to adopt Resolution 21-049, adopting the amended 2019 Annual Action Plan and authorizing the city manager to execute all necessary documents and certifications on behalf of the City of Roseville for submittal of the amendment to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, and adopt ordinance number 6328 of the Council of the City of Roseville, authorizing certain amendments to the fiscal year 2021 budget, and declaring this ordinance to be immediately effective as an appropriation measure. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Vice Mayor Haddishelt. Councilmember Alvord.
Yes.
Councilmember Rakucci.
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza.
Yes.
And Mayor Bernasconi.
Yes, thank you. Next item up is 9.2, Sierra Vista Specific Plan Parcel, JM40 General Plan Amendment, Specific Plan Amendment, Rezone and Development Agreement Amendments.
Good evening, Mayor Bernasconi, council members. My name is Kenny Shallow, Associate Planner, and I'm here tonight to present the Sierra Vista Parcel JM40 Subdivision Project. So the project site is located on Parcel JM40 in the Sierra Vista Specific Plan area at the northeast corner of Market Street and Vista Grande Boulevard. The site is approximately 5.5 acres and is currently undeveloped. It has a zoning designation of commercial mixed use with the special area overlay and has a land use designation of both community commercial and commercial mixed use. The surrounding uses to the north and east are medium-density residential subdivisions that are currently under construction. And to the west of this site across Market Street is parcel FD41, which is also vacant and identical to JM40 in terms of size, zoning, and land use. The Sierra Vista Specific Plan identifies these two parcels as being part of the Village Node District, which was intended to support a mixture of commercial and residential uses. So because of this, JM40 is currently allocated 40 residential units and was anticipated for approximately 60,000 square feet of commercial and office uses. The applicant is proposing a 35-unit single-family residential subdivision on JM40 and is requesting several entitlements. These include a general plan and specific plan amendment to change the land use designation to medium-density residential, and to transfer 5 units from parcel JM40 to Sierra Vista parcel JM30, A rezone is requested to change the zoning designation from commercial mixed-use special area to small lot residential with modified development standards, and 2 development agreements will be amended to reflect the proposed land use changes. The project also included a tentative subdivision map and design review for residential subdivision, which were both approved by Planning Commission on December 10, 2020. Consistent with the city's adopted guidelines for converting non-residential land uses, a fiscal impact analysis was prepared for the project, and it concluded the land use change will result in a net positive fiscal impact on the city. Although the project will reduce sales tax revenue due to the reduction in commercial land uses, the project mitigates this with the fees generated by the Community Facilities District Number 3, which will offset costs of the project and will not negatively affect the general fund. The land use change was also reviewed for impacts to traffic and utilities, and since the project is removing commercial land, the vehicle trips generated from the site will be reduced from the trips anticipated in the city's traffic model. Also, environmental utility staff review the project and determine the city has sufficient water supply and wastewater capacity to adequately serve the project. The project includes the transfer of 5 units from JM40 to high-density residential parcel JM30, which is currently undeveloped and is also located in the Sierra Vista plan. The proposed unit transfer will not change the overall number of units for the plan area. With the unit transfer, the total unit allocation for JM30 will be 176 units. JM30 is designated as an affordable housing site with the current obligation of 146 affordable units. And as part of this project, the applicant is proposing to designate all 176 units as affordable. The city's housing division determined the project is consistent with city policy and no affordable units are required for JM40. The project will rezone JM40 from commercial mixed use to small lot residential with the Development Standards Overlay, or RSDS, in order to allow construction of the subdivision. Staff finds the proposed rezone is consistent with the general plan, which identifies the RS zone as an implementing zone for the MDR land use. The project includes a second amendment of the Morier and Bagley DA and a second amendment of the Morier and Computer Deductions DA. These DAs will be amended to reflect the proposed unit transfers and land use change. As requested by environmental utility staff, the DA amendments will revise obligations relating to construction of groundwater wells and recycled water facilities. It also includes minor changes to language on the monitoring of water supply and water conservation goals to be consistent with language in other DAs in the plan area. Lastly, the amendment to the Morier and Computer Deductions DA includes a revision to the affordable housing obligation for JM30 to reflect the unit transfers discussed earlier. And this slide here is for reference. The image on the left is the approved tentative subdivision map, which will divide the lot into the 35 residential lots and 1 landscape lot. And then on the right is the approved home designs, which include a mix of 1- and 2-story homes. And regarding public outreach, early notification of the project was provided to the Arcona board, and a notice of the hearings were sent to property owners within 300 feet of the site, to Arcona, and published in the Press Tribune. No public comments were received on the project. Consistent with CEQA, an addendum to the Sierra Vista Specific Plan EIR was prepared, which determined there were no new significant impacts. So as mentioned, the project was heard by the City's Planning Commission on December 10, 2020. No public comments were received, and at the end of the meeting, the Planning Commission unanimously recommended City Council approve the entitlements before you tonight and approve the tentative subdivision map and the design review for residential subdivision. So in conclusion, staff finds that the proposed land use change is consistent with citywide policy and results in a net positive fiscal impact. The change in zoning is compatible with the surrounding area. And with the unit transfer, the project provides the benefit of more affordable housing units in the city. And the project is consistent with the goals, policies, and standards of the zoning ordinance, community design guidelines, and the Sierra Vista specific plan. At this time, staff recommends the City Council take the actions listed on this slide, approving the project entitlements. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you very much. Council, do you have any questions of Kenny?
I do.
I'll start with
On these homes, as you said, 176 affordable?
For parcel JM30, yes.
And these are going to be for purchase?
I believe they're rentals.
Oh, I thought,
Or
no, not purchase, because I thought they were, or some were.
did I misspeak?
Could we pull the slide back showing, so the the parcel that we're rezoning, Councilmember Rakucci, will be single-family homes.
Okay.
The affordable homes, JM30 is another parcel within the Sierra Vista specific plan that already is a high density, it's already designated high density. And that site will be 176 units of affordable rental product.
Okay.
So that in the future, that will be a multifamily rental project.
Okay. I guess I was mistaken. I thought there was some possibility of purchase homes in this one here for affordable.
No, this, for the parcels subject to this particular application, they're transferring, the units that they're transferring never had an affordable obligation. They're adding that to the new parcel.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
Any other questions?
I wanted to just ask the FD41 lot across the street that's community commercial. The current plan from the city's perspective is to not allow that to change to housing, to keep that commercial. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the benefit, so we offset the loss of commercial on this corner because we still have the commercial on the opposite corner, which is more viable for maybe like neighborhood serving uses since it's smaller in scale. So the question was just make sure we are wanting to protect that for commercial.
I just want to augment what Kenny is saying is, yes, that was one of the considerations, and JMC owns both of these parcels, and that was one of the considerations is we need to have a commercial parcel in this location, in this specific plan. It's pretty vital that we keep one of the two. We understood that 2 5-acre sites, both of them may not, be viable for a long, long time, but one is going to be critical as the plan builds out.
Great, thank you.
Can I just add quickly, just because of the discussion earlier with Pauline, also a couple things on this one. This was a really we had a lot of discussion about this and the need, as you know, we've really toggled back and forth with making sure we're preserving our commercial corridors in our areas, and so one of the considerations up front was there is additional community commercial and neighborhood commercial in this area that is really probably better suited for the development that we'll see occurring. And so that was one. And then, Councilwoman Crucci, to your question, there is still an affordable purchase requirement on this specific plan where there will be requirements for purchase of affordability, not just rental. This one happens to be an additional 40 units that is rental, but that requirement in the plan still exists and is still required and is still part of the DA.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
That answered mine.
Okay, I will open it up to public comment at this time. The number to call in is 916-774-5353. We have any, we've got 2 calls. We'll put one through now.
Good evening. If you'd state your name, you may make your comments now.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. This is Chad Roberts on behalf of the applicant. I don't have anything to add to Kenny's report at this time. I do want to thank staff for all their hard work in getting this project before you this evening. If you have any additional questions, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, I want to thank you for your time and respectfully request you adopt the staff recommendations.
Thank you. Good evening. If you'd state your name, you may make your comments now.
Hi, Lisa Larkin. And Dominic, I think, answered some of the question that I had. It was regarding moving the 5 units from the one parcel to the other parcel, and if they were, in fact, moving houses that would be available for purchase and transferring them instead and making them rental units, which keeps people of low income in low income because they don't have the ability to earn equity, which is where people can move out of low income and move up in the community. The other thing is a concern as to when the parcel 40 will be developed versus the parcel 30 will be developed. How long will it be? Are we pushing off affordable housing and delaying the construction of affordable housing over this particular project? Those are my comments and concerns. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, okay. That's the end of our calls. I will close public comment. Does the council have any other discussion items?
Yeah, could we drill down a little bit on that affordable housing question, please? I think it's an important thing for the community to understand.
I just want to quickly address, parcel JM40 does not have an affordable housing obligation on that parcel.
Right.
So if it was to, it has right now 40 units allocated to it and some commercial square footage. So if somebody were to build 40 units on parcel 40, there's no requirement for any of those units to be made available for affordable households. So basically what is happening here is they're going to build 35 units on the site, and those will be market rate single-family homes. They're transferring through the specific plan process 5 of those units to parcel JM30, and they're amending the DA to guarantee that those units will ultimately be built as affordable units. So the city, for this particular 5-acre site, the city is getting a net gain of 5 affordable housing units for the future. So I hope that is that.
Yeah,
well,
and whether, regardless of the housing type, these folks in the affordable housing will have access to all the amenities and parks and recreation in that area, right?
Correct. Yeah, the parcel JM30 that is will have 176 future affordable units. Yeah, is in the middle of the neighborhood. Access to
so we're getting a net gain of affordable housing, opportunity for those who are living in multifamily housing to have access to the amenities in the Fitterman Farm Sierra Vista specific plan area.
Okay. Absolutely.
Thank you.
So Greg, just a real quick question, just so that the caller doesn't walk away with something other than what's actually factual. Right. We're actually gaining, not losing affordable housing.
Sure, and I misspoke a little bit because there's a bigger picture. With the whole project, there's more than just 5 units being transferred. There's units from other large lot parcels within Sierra Vista being transferred to parcel JM30. So as Kenny mentioned, parcel JM30 right now has 156 units allocated to it. With this entire project, they're increasing by 30. 5 of those units are coming from JM40. And 25 of those units are coming from some other parcels within the development agreement amendments that you're taking action on tonight.
So 40 and 25. 40 and 1 and 25.
5 and 25.
5 and 25,
so
excuse
me. 30 total. So from JM40, sorry to do this to you, the city is getting 5 additional affordable units. From some of the other properties that Moyer JMC has control over, we're getting another 25 affordable units. So, big picture, we're getting 30 additional affordable units on parcel JM30.
I appreciate you drilling down on that because I think it's important that we deal with facts. So, thank you.
Sure.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Any other comments?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Okay. I'll close the public hearing, and our clerk will read the motion.
It's a long one. So the motion is to consider the third addendum to the Sierra Vista Specific Plan Environmental Impact Report and adopt resolution number 21-033, amending the general plan to change the general plan land use designations on certain real property in the city of Roseville, and to adopt resolution number 21-034, amending the Sierra Vista Specific Plan, and adopt the 2 findings of fact and introduce for first reading an ordinance of the Council of the City of Roseville rezoning certain real property in the City of Roseville, and to adopt 5 findings of fact and introduce for first reading an ordinance of the Council of the City of Roseville adopting a second amendment of the development agreement by and between the City of Roseville and Moyer Investments, LLC, Moyer and Bagley, relative to the Sierra Vista specific plan and authorizing the city manager to execute it on behalf of the city of Roseville. Additionally, to adopt 5 findings of fact and introduce for first reading an ordinance to the council of the city of Roseville, adopting a second amendment of the development agreement by and between the city of Roseville and Moyer Investments, LLC, Moyer and Computer Deductions, relative to the Sierra Vista specific plan and authorizing the city manager to execute it on behalf of the city of Roseville. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Vice Mayor Haddashelt?
Yes.
Councilmember Alvord?
Yes.
Councilmember Rakucci? Yes. Councilmember Mendoza?
Yes.
And Mayor Bernasconi?
Yes. Thank you. That's it for our action items. I would like to open it for our last public comment of this evening. So this is a time for anyone to call in and speak to any item that is not on the agenda. The phone number to call in is 916-774-5353. I'll give it just a minute to see if we have any callers. Okay, the phone is not ringing. I will close public comment, and we'll start with council member comments. I never know who to start. We'll start with Councilmember Alvord.
Yeah, I have a question to ask my fellow council members. I'd like to ask for your support in requesting our staff to do some research and provide us with some recommendations regarding our campaign finance ordinance. It's 20 years old currently, and I think there's opportunity to modernize it and clarify some of the areas that are somewhat vague, particularly in the area of enforcement. I think that having our legal team and city clerk office provide us with recommendations to update it to be more effective in our new district arrangement would be a really good idea as we move forward.
I'd be supportive of that. And a number of other things that probably have outlived the 20 years that the ordinance has been in place. And I don't know how you want to do this. Maybe we just submit some suggestions and then the ordinance comes back.
Yeah, just proposing have them give us a proposal of what they think we ought to do to update it.
I'd be supportive of that.
Okay. Any other comments?
No, I'm fine with that. 20 years is a long time, and it's nice to have an update.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Thank you. That's all I have tonight.
Okay. Vice Mayor Haddashelt, any comments?
Yeah, as the regular viewers to our Wednesday nights know, the council has a lot of auxiliary boards that we sit on. So last week was a particularly busy week with the California Municipal Utilities Association having their Capital Day. One of the benefits of being virtual is you can get a lot of places quicker. It was a terrific program. We learned a lot about key issues for our water and electric utilities. Then it was followed up later in the week with our Placer County Transportation Planning Agency and South Placer Regional Transportation Agency, state legislative and federal legislative discussions, as well as funding plans, and the departure of a key member of the staff, Luke Card McNeil, I think I've got his last name correct, but he's gone to work for an engineering firm. You'll remember, some of you will remember Luke when he came before the Planning Commission on tree permits, tree removal permits. He was very critical, very essential on the Highway 65 widening and other things. So PCTPA will be working to fill that vacancy. Wednesday was Sites Authority Board. They had a town hall meeting earlier in the day, and they have got now a new draft project description that they will finalize between now and June, and then go out for the official environmental impact report discussions. Councilmember Alvord and I sat on the South Placer Wastewater Authority. I think that was Wednesday, along with Supervisor Gore and Supervisor Chair of the Board Wygant, and the South Placer Municipal Utility District Representative is a name familiar to us. The former Supervisor, Jim Williams, has joined us on that. And I got to tell you, you hear about how we all work and we all come with a certain perspective. Councilman Albert asked a key question on one of the financial documents. I think it was related to par value and things like that. So, we each bring something to these meetings that together collectively betters the process. And although I got to apologize, I didn't do really well, but Sunday night I participated, one of our callers under public comment invited me to participate in the Yogathon for Humanity. I'm not very limber. I'm still working on it. But that was, a lot of elected officials from around the region, and some of our own folks were there. So that was that week, and next week will probably be just as busy. So.
Yeah, isn't that the truth? Yep. Councilmember Mendonça?
I don't have any of my external boards to report out on. However, I just want to put a reminder out to our residents that this coming Sunday, obviously, is Super Bowl. And those of you who don't want to cook or just want to veg out, I would strongly encourage that you support one of our local businesses. Mostly all of them are doing some form of takeout. There's lists on the Downtown Partnership website, on the Roseville Chamber of Commerce site. There's all kinds of different ways that you can find businesses and local restaurants that are doing takeout specials. And we're still in this pandemic, and they're still relying on all of us to help them get through it. So any way that you could support them as far as helping them out and getting some to go for the big game, I'm sure they'd appreciate it, and it's less mess for you to have to cook at home. So please remember our businesses this weekend. Other than that, that's all I have.
Thank you. Councilmember Rakucci?
Just a couple things. I also attended the California Municipal Utilities Association's Capital Day. They had a lot of speakers that came in. It's really nice to be on Zoom because you get to see, a lot more things than maybe when you're there, because you can catch a little bit of everything. But it's, for us here in Roseville, it's on water and electric issues. Vice Mayor Haldershot and Mayor Bernasconi, we were in different meetings and got to meet with representatives for Senator Nielsen and Assemblyman Kiley. And it was a very fruitful day going over some of our priorities and how we can best work together. And also last week was I'm on the Northern California Power Association, and it's our joint powers group that helps us buy and sell electricity and keep our rates low and keep electricity flowing in our region. A couple things just to bring out too that I thought might be interesting to people is the library board. We just a meeting ago selected a lot of people from different commissions that were coming up, and that was really fun, and it was nice to do that. But there is one board vacancy in the library board, and a reminder to people, if you're on a committee, that's fine, but if you wanted to be on another committee, you have to give up one of them. You can only be on one committee at a time, and sometimes it's easy to forget that. So be sure to pick which one you really want. But there is an opening, so if you're interested, check with our here with the city. The cutoff date is February 25th, so it'll be coming up. And I want to thank people who've been emailing areas where they've seen trash or things, so that we can be mindful of it. Sometimes we don't always see everything, and then we had that big storm that just kind of made everybody's area look bad. But thank you for the input, and received information about some graffiti in different areas, and it was interesting. Some of those areas, I've taken those pictures, and the city's been working on those areas, but she did have some new ones. So if you have sites or see something, put where it is, because the city's pretty big, and it's just more helpful so that we can do the best job to help you. And let me see. I think, if anybody, one other thing, back to the committees, Northern California Power Association put on a program, it's called NCPA 101, and there's 3 days, I think about 2 hours each day, and it's completed. However, if you wanted to see it because you couldn't make it those days and wanted to see one of them, they're going to put it online so that you can see it. And I would say for people who I just want to know a little bit more about how it functions, that NCPA 101, in the beginning and why it got started and where it is and how the organization and who belongs to it. It's very, very helpful. And that's it. Thank you.
That's it? We've been all so busy.
I'm so sorry. I forgot to give my report. I did the request and I forgot to give my council.
Oh, sure.
update.
Go for it.
So sorry to jump back in. I had something kind of interesting happen the last couple of weeks. Is there was a series of economic development meetings, and I thought it would be interesting to share this. So one of them was the City of Roseville's Economic Development Advisory Committee, and we focus on Roseville-specific economics and business retention and attraction and keeping our board updated on the different projects that are happening downtown and things that spur our economic development. And so that was a very interesting meeting. There's always, all of these that I'm going to talk about have different sectors as part of their boards. And so that was an interesting meeting. And then the Placer County Economic Development Board met, and we've got, universities, healthcare, power, all the different jurisdictions, the electeds from each jurisdiction sit on that board, and we share about different economic things that are happening. And that board, we focused a lot on pandemic recovery right now, what everybody's doing, trying to recover, trying to get back on their feet. But they also do business attraction and retention. And then the third one was the GSEC, the Greater Sacramento Economic Council. And Krista and I sat in on a champions program where they educate us on just kind of talking about the positives of the whole region, the whole Sacramento region. And that group really focuses on business attraction, big business attraction, and retention, and full economics. And there's several counties that participate in that and very big businesses. And I thought that was a real interesting progression of economics and things that happen behind the scenes just to try to keep our economies very strong. And then I hope you'll talk about Kaiser's thing today. You had a nice part in that. So that's it. Thank you.
Yes, you definitely, the city residents definitely have a council who are working hard for the businesses and the residents. And I feel definitely a team approach with all of that. And we have been, despite the pandemic and not being able to meet in person, there's definitely been no shortage of advocacy. A couple of my council members mentioned the Capitol Day through California Municipal Association, and I was able to take part in a meeting with Assemblymember Kiley's office and Senator Neal's office to really just voice what our concerns were and how they might be able to help us. Spent a couple days at a League of Cities virtual conference for new mayors and council members, and that's always helpful information. I've had a couple meetings with SACOG, which is our area of governments. Had a call with them today. I was able to speak with our Roseville Chamber at the Economic Development and Government Affairs meetings a couple weeks ago. Weekly with our city managers in the region. The mayors are on a call Friday afternoons with our health officer to be able to get information and ask questions. So if any of you ever have any questions that aren't addressed here, I'd be happy to ask on our behalf. Yes, one of the things that was mentioned in the GSEC, the Greater Sacramento Economic Council, on Friday that Scott and I were on was, as they tout the area, one of the things that was interesting was they said that quality of life for people that want to move here is one of the last things that companies ask about. The first two are regarding the workforce and the availability of real estate. So they can close the deal with quality of life, which is what us in the suburbs love to talk about as quality of life, but that's definitely not their lead in. This Friday coming up, I will take part in a meeting with Assemblymember Kiley's office and all of the department heads with the city of Roseville so that Assemblymember Kiley can hear firsthand from each of the department heads on what's happening in our city, from our police chief to our Parks and Recs. And I am taking a tour on Friday with our utility at our new digester under construction. I'm actually looking forward to that. Councilmember Rakucci mentioned the one vacancy that is a result from our last appointment on the library board, but also there's still an opening for the redistricting commission, and that closes on March 5th, and all of that information is on the website for residents to be able to apply. And two last things, and I did get a chance to speak today at the Kaiser NICU opening. If you hadn't heard, Kaiser expanded their bed space from 48 NICU beds to 60 NICU beds. And if you remember, they opened up that NICU center, I think in 2009 or 2010. Prior to that, any babies needing neonatal intensive care unit with Kaiser had to go to Sacramento. So that was a great virtual opening, and I had the pleasure of speaking to that and spoke on behalf of all of our council. The last thing is Laura Mattioli, department. I picked up the Comstocks magazine, and there is a great spread in here about Roseville, our utilities, how we're positioned for growth. You have a couple of the buildings. So I just wanted to commend her and her team for putting that together. It's really well done. On that note, today was another sad day in Roseville. We had the funeral for Sacramento Sergeant Adam Gibson, and Councilmember Pauline Rakucci had the idea that we should honor him this evening, either through a moment of silence or during the meeting in his behalf. Do you have a preference on what we do?
How about a moment of silence?
Okay. All right. So we'll take a few moments and honor what he gave. Okay. Thank you for that. That was very nice. So, unless there are any other comments or anything to say, okay.
Mayor Bernasconi, I'd like to report out on the closed session. In accordance with the City Council meeting agenda, the council met in closed session this evening on two items. The first item is public employee appointment. There's nothing reportable on that matter. And the second item is conference with legal counsel regarding anticipated litigation. The City Council, by unanimous vote, did authorize the initiation of litigation, and certain details of that litigation can be disclosed once the action has actually been filed. So, thank you.
Thank you for that. Okay, on that note, we will adjourn this meeting and we will reconvene February 17th at 6 p.m. Thank you, everyone.